All right, welcome to another episode of the Business of Coaching Workshop. Today I'm joined live by Mike Manzi, a sales and oh boy, I've got a bunch of feedback.
Oh, hold on.
All right, there we go.
You good?
Live with Mike Manzi, a sales executive and strategist turned content creator who's helped thousands of sales people and founders sell with clarity, close more deals, and grow their businesses with confidence. He's the founder of Official Sales Tips, a newsletter with, by my count, over 170,000 subscribers. That's still a good count, or you got
Sounds good to
over?
me. Yeah, sounds
Yeah.
about right.
And a coaching community, which I am also in full transparency part of, that helps sales professionals and founders stop guessing and start growing. But here's why this conversation matters to you, coaches that are listening right now. You want more clients. You want to know how much you should charge, and you want to feel confident on sales calls. Mike's mastered all three using no BS, low friction tactics that are built for people like you, solo service providers who lead with help first. He built his business by showing up online with short, punchy advice, which is how I found him on the Instagrams, and has since sold group coaching, high ticket consulting, and scalable programs, all without chasing. So I want to go deep on three topics in the short time that we've got today, which are our three most common questions that we get. Even though Turnkey Coach is a fulfillment platform, often as we're onboarding coaches, we immediately get asked, how do I get more clients? How much should I charge? And how do I close when I'm on the call? So let's get into it. Part one, unless you want to, is there anything you want to add that I've missed to highlight in your background?
No, that sounds great. I can't wait to help everybody out. All I would say is anybody listening or watching, make sure you get your notes out because I go pretty quick and there's going to be a lot of things that are very tactical. This isn't going to be a passive while I'm doing laundry conversation. This will be a very active conversation, I believe.
Outstanding. That's definitely what we like to focus on. People often ask, we call it a workshop, so what's my homework assignment? And hopefully we can give people some action they can take. So first question, how do I get more clients? This one's actually near and dear to my heart. I'm really curious to ask you that's personally, because recently I've been hearing you say that your whole business is inbound now. You're not doing outreach as much, not as many ads, which I know a lot of coaches would love. The reason I mentioned it being near and dear to my heart is when we first started with Official Sales Tip a little over a year ago, cold outreach was a big part of our initial stab at trying to grow our sales pipeline. And we were, growing, trying to use Instantly and get leads lists. And then funny enough, late last year, I picked up Software as a Science. I don't know if you knew you were quoted in here. I'm guessing
Yeah.
you did, but it was basically talking about how that channel's become flooded now and maybe saturated to a point. So I'm curious, what's your mindset now with cold outreach, and how are you shifting now towards a more inbound based strategy?
Yeah. So the important thing to note here is everything we're thinking about when it comes to outreach to people or even in-reach people communicating with us. There are three things you should care about: the quantity of whatever you're doing, the quality of whatever you're doing, and the distribution of whatever you're doing. So this could be the number of emails I'm sending, what the quality of the emails, and what is actually in the email itself, and then also the distribution. Am I sending am I doing 100% of my outreach over email, or do I have it in a couple different channels? Is the distribution of people I'm reaching out to all, people that are just random people that are in my town, or is it specific sets of people? So you want to think about that. Now I bring that up to say, your general outreach at a company might be, I have a content that can help, let's say in your case, coaches. I can deliver that content in a podcast, on a YouTube video, in a TikTok, in a newsletter, on LinkedIn, in an email, in a webinar. Those are all different places that I can deliver this content. So that's the last bit actually, which is distribution. It's content quality, that is distribution, not the last one. So I say that to sort of tee up whatever you're doing, whether it is ads, you should either be optimizing the amount, the quality, or the distribution of those ads. If it's TikTok or Instagram or anything else, the same thing is true. All right, that stage now set. The real answer is you need to become if you are a TV channel that people you would like to sell to would tune into, you also are the exclusive advertiser. So everybody is demanding attention. Instagram, TikTok, but also this TV show, that TV show, this podcast, that webinar. In the old days, there ABC existed, and then there was 20 different advertisers for a half-hour slot. Well, right now, you have the ability to say, I'm going to create a channel. It's called the Mike Manzi channel of blue water bottles. I love blue water bottles. All I'm going to talk about is blue water bottles. And so you can create all sorts of content around blue and why blue is the best, and water bottles and why water bottles are the best. Anybody else who believes that blue and water bottles are the best will tune in. Well, now you have their attention. So you are not only the person talking about blue water bottles, but you have the attention of everybody, and you're the only advertiser for your own business. So you need to first create content that would attract the kind of people you want to sell to. Let's dive into this for a second. That content is not about your business. You know, we all see the day in the lives and the get ready with me's and the make sure to tell a story about how you grow your business. Sometimes you can get that right, and that can work, but it's a little older. What you want to do is be like, if I'm interested in speaking with rich bros in my town that want to be the coolest guy ever, well, great. You should talk about the top 10 coolest cars, the top 10 colorways of coolest cars, the 5 ways that Range Rovers look cooler than Defenders. That's not related to what it is you do, but that is related to what these people care about. So now those people, you have their attention. You also only want people that are interested, let's say, in working out. Well, so now you might talk about, hey, the best settings in your Range Rover for post-workout cool down, right? That's an example. Or it might be just other, to make it simple, top 10 lists of workouts of the day, those types of things. So the content should not be about your business. At no point in any of I've made over 2,000 TikToks, which is out now over like 10,000 pieces of content. I'd say probably 5 times I've said my company or what I do or any of that. It's all, here's a tip on sales or whatever else. Now,
yeah, when I first found you, it was what caught my attention was you were talking actually not even about sales. It was more like corporate leadership kind of content.
Yeah.
And that, my background, 15 years of corporate life, it resonated with my experience. And so I started following you and consuming more and more content. And then eventually I was like, what does this guy actually do? And then I went and found your business. And
exactly. Up. So I didn't have to advertise to you or pay any money for you to. And in fact, if I did advertise to you, now the landing page I would have to drive you to would have to do so much heavy lifting. You have to now on this landing page say, here's the 20 reasons why Mike has is valuable and can help your business. And also here's everything that he does. And as you dig into that and you want to go back to Instagram, please don't actually watch this 10-minute VSL video I made. It's really challenging. Whereas if I can passively talk to you and 200,000 other people on TikTok, Instagram, wherever else for 3 or 4 months, well, I'll get nothing for a couple of months. But at the end of that, I now have an exponential curve of people whose attention I have that eventually go, I finally just found you. And what I found is that almost everyone who's ever bought anything from me has followed me for 4 months. I don't know what it is, but that's it.
That was almost exactly the amount of time.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's weird. So the first thing is create a channel wherever your people are and however they want to consume it, and realize that everybody is on TikTok and Instagram and everywhere else. So don't be like, it's got to be on LinkedIn or it's got to be in these publications. It doesn't. Because the majority of your time when you go to your phone and set so much time, the majority of your time is not spent on that newsletter. It's not spent on LinkedIn. The majority of your time is spent in your email, looking at work stuff or other apps. The second thing that's important to make sure people come in, sorry, but I'm going to cut you off.
Nope, go ahead. Cool.
The second thing that's really important is now that you have their attention, there's really, I feel, 2 things that will drive them to your business. Your content needs to be some level of either A, tactical things that can change someone's life that day. Don't try to say like, here's how you can run a sales team. And it's like a big topic. Just like in your first 10 minutes of a one-on-one, here's a great question to ask. That means that person can go from listening to you or seeing your thing to immediately seeing a benefit that day versus overall maybe potentially seeing that benefit. So it has to be immediate tactical advice, or it has to be entertaining. But the entertaining part does not need to be funny. It does not need to be goofy, and it definitely doesn't need to be edited. You see my video. I don't do editing in my videos in my car. It just needs to be interesting. So I always bring up people who want to get started, top 10 lists, because it's the easiest thing to get started with. It also keeps people attention until they get to like number 10. So it helps you get that total view watch time in the right spot. But top 10 best places, worst places, fastest, richest, most interesting, least interesting, in my opinion, in a doctor's opinion, just that in itself should give you the comments. So think about, get their attention, give them tips that will change some element of their life immediately, or entertain them in some capacity. All of this should drive back to a link in your bio of some kind, or a link in your wherever, so people can then find what it is you do. And then at that point, you shouldn't have to do really any sales. Well, I think Hormozy says it. He's like, sales is just the result of bad marketing, right? So it's like if you're that good, if your marketing and content is so good, you don't have to call me and say, hey, why should I buy your program? You should just be like, dude, you helped me so many times, I'm sure it's going to work. So hopefully that's what happens for you too.
What advice would you give to a coach that thinks, I don't have anything to say, everybody's said it before, I don't have any audience, I just feel like I'm shouting into the wilderness?
Yeah, totally. So a couple of things. One is just, I'm just going to steal from Timothy Ferriss in the 4-Hour Work Week, which is, he's like, listen, almost everything has already been done. Like Facebook exists, but like we already had newsletters and bulletin boards and newspapers and friends and text messaging. So, and then Twitter exists, which is just a component of Facebook, right? So your twist on it may be a little bit different. There's how many creators that have 1 billion followers that are in coaching, let's say, but you follow the ones you follow for a combination of reasons. It's just like, I like the way that he looked, or the way that he talked, or whatever. And you don't know what that's going to be. So you can't say possibly like, I don't have anything new to say, and you don't have to have anything new to say. It's you saying it that makes someone else go, that was cool. The second thing is, typically the people that you're going to be coaching don't know as much as you about whatever that topic is. I am not the world's best sales trainer. I'm better at sales than that person. And so that person follows me. Now, this person who's better at sales than I am, he doesn't follow me because he's like, you don't know everything. That's fine. There's enough people in this market for you to be able to help people that aren't as smart as you. And anybody who thinks that they don't know much, you should realize that in your circle, you don't know much because like that guy's smarter, that girl's smarter. But in the realm of everyone you can reach out to, you are significantly more smart. And then finally, what I'll say is, if people who don't want to get in front of the camera, you don't have to. One thing you can do is you can use Riverside. Is an app, it's a thing you can use, or CapCut also, where you can do yourself, just talking to the camera and say whatever you want, but then you can just flip it over to be like a Pixar character or something else, so you're not actually in front of the camera. The other is, I forget the exact name of these other apps, but there are apps where you can just type in what you want to say and it'll come up. The third thing I'll do is one of the best videos that I've ever made, the most viral ones on Instagram in particular, but anywhere, are just a random video. Could be of you, could be of your window, could be of your car. It doesn't matter. A video of just water bottles and then text over the screen saying whatever it is that you want to say. And then also videos that do really well, you could just have it be a video of your hand. You get one of the put your phone right here and just write out what you're trying to say, or narrate what you're trying to say. So you don't have to be in front of the camera. You don't have to know the most. And you don't have to have a unique perspective in order to be able to grow. That said, in order to grow the fastest, the best, let's say, forget the format and hooks and everything else. the best post will always be some level of a controversial take. So this could mean that you actually say like, people think to gain muscle you should work out. I don't believe that, right? Let's say there's some way to do that. But it could also just be like mini controversial takes of like, a lot of people think like water is the most important thing when it comes to this. For me, it's actually number 2, because the most important thing is this. It doesn't have to be the most controversial. It just have to be controversial to some degree to
How to
almost
tell if
guarantee
your boyfriend is lying.
follow. Exactly. Exactly. That's great.
How would you respond if what was there? You had one about your daughter staying with 6 guys in a
How
hotel.
yeah, how your daughter staying with 25 dudes on spring break, and like, but you remember this, and a lot of them you guys will recognize too. It'll be things like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but, or I know everybody thinks you should be doing this, but, or this may ruffle some feathers, but, or I know I'm gonna get a lot of heat for this, but those are all the hooks and everything else everybody else is using.
So wrapping up
the level of
this section, homework assignment for how to get more clients with content creation would just be go out, create a top 10 list. Is that what you'd had somebody start?
Yeah, I would say go create 20 pieces of content. Don't worry about your username. Don't worry about your picture. Don't worry about anything. Go make 20 pieces of content, because you gotta go. It's like you gotta go over the hump a little bit. In the first few are gonna be so hard. Create 21 really pieces of content. And if you are having a hard time doing that, the homework I would say would be come up with 7 topics, and then create 1 top 10 list, 1 hot take, and you could even just do a top 3 list. From that, do a second one that's just 3. Make those videos, and if you don't make the video, make those newsletter or LinkedIn posts if you prefer to do it that way. But get that content out.
One thing I've always been kind of blown away by is the volume of content and the diversity of topics. How much time do you spend to ideation and just generating all of
When I first started, it would take me about 20 minutes to do a video. Now even within a couple of months, like a month or 2, there's so much creative. I'm not that I'm that freaking creative, man. But it's like once you start to make a little bit of content, you start to just kind of see it everywhere. You get off a call and you're like, ooh, I got to talk about that. I was on a call yesterday and someone was like, how do you take notes? I was like, oh, like this. I just made a video on it like 2 minutes later. So, but the ideation, you see what I do. I drop my kids off at daycare. And then between the 20 minutes between daycare and my house, I just sit here with the phone in my hand open, on the video open, going, what happened yesterday? And I'm like, oh yeah, I talked to that guy. And I'm like, what was that about? Okay, that was about him leading his team. He was struggling with getting his team to do anything. And I'll be like, there's 3 things that are really important when it comes to leading a lazy team. And then, so I'm just going to I'm going to get that bit. I don't think about the entire video. I just get the first bit down, and then I go, okay, what's one thing? The first thing is blah, 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 blah. Okay, think about a second. Then I'll do 2, then I'll do 3, and then I'll let it go. Whenever I try to make a video, by the way, where it's like do a 1-minute video in 1 clip, dude, that takes me like an hour. But when you're able to just do the clip of just 2 or 3, like here's my intro, here's my next thing, here's my next thing. All right, that sounds pretty good. Close. And then don't worry about your captions. Don't worry about your hashtags. None of that shit really matters. None of that stuff really matters. But what you do need to do, this is real practical and logistical, is you need to post 2 to 3 times a day for the first 20, 30 days, which is not so. It's really for 2 reasons. It's 1, to get you to start realizing how you make the content, and it'll become natural. But 2, it's for Instagram or TikTok to go, oh, this guy's trying to like do something. This isn't just somebody posting for his buddies. He's trying to become more viral. Let's push his stuff out a little bit.
That's awesome. I think the content you put out advice early on, or it was one of the early pieces I saw, was when you're talking to your boss, always give them, these are the 3 most important things, because then you just like force your brain into coming up with 3 things, even if you don't have them.
Yes. Yes.
I definitely like the constraint.
It does really help. If you want to make content, just sit in front of the camera and go, there's 2 things that matter for bench press. Go to the next video. But like, there's 4 things that matter when it comes to, and then it'll force you to go, hey, what the hell are those things? Yeah. And you'll realize what it is.
So moving on to the second most popular question, how much should I charge? You've obviously helped a ton of people with pricing. That's a whole other
Mm-hmm.
section of content that you have. What holds most people back from pricing higher or finding the right price? Because I mean, do you also see situations where people? I guess what I would say is it's most popular. The content that I see around pricing is most popular is you should charge more. But how do you navigate that? How do you know whether you're charging too little or not enough, or what advice would you give people around pricing?
Yeah. So what I would say here with the pricing is first really try to iron out like who is your ideal customer profile, ideal customer profile. So is your ideal customer somebody who has a lot of money because they maybe are easier to sell to or whatever, but maybe you don't want to work with them. I got a friend of mine who does photography. She's like, I don't charge that much because I don't want to work with these people. Their demands are too high. I just don't want to deal with it.
Mm.
Cool. So just think first is that who do you want to go after? And then if you know who these people are, you can start surveying them and asking them. That's what I've done to try to figure out where my sweet spot is. But the other thing I've done and I recommend is start where you feel is appropriate and just keep ranking the price up. And you should be able to have enough information, whether it's conversion rates from your web page to purchasing or to meetings or whatever else, to start informing you what's the point when I start to see a decrease in returns from that. What I will say is, it can be challenging sometimes to bring the price down because then it's like, why are you lowering the price? Obviously, it's not valuable, or you couldn't sell it. So I'm more of a fan to push it up and do also kind of like Hormozy also says this, which is like start charging what you think is reasonable as you get a win rate of whatever you think is appropriate for inbound. I would expect you to be winning about 40 to 60%. If that's what your win rate is, see if you can increase it by 20%, by 20%, by 20%. My templates, I started selling at $65, and in the end, I was selling for $250. My program, I started at $100. Now I'm selling for $300 a month because I'm just ratcheting it up as I move on. So that's what I would say is go what's reasonable, ratchet it up, watch your ICP, and then go from there.
When coaches will often say, my clients can't afford that, or a lot of times clients will say after a while, it's just too expensive. I can't. Is that true? Or what's the truth behind the price point or too expensive?
Yeah. So the prices are too expensive for one of three reasons only. I don't have the cash, but I think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it. Or it could be worth it, and I do have the cash, but I don't think it's worth the risk. So, for example, a Honda. I'm not gonna. If a Honda was $5,000, I have the cash. I don't think it's. I don't think it's worth $5,000 to me to buy a Honda. I don't want it. Now, if that Honda was $100,000, I might go. It's definitely not worth $100,000. So, I don't think it has the value. Now, what if I might not have $100,000. So that's one reason I don't have it, but I think it's worth it. I might not think it's worth $100,000, or I might say, it's great, but why is it $100,000? There might be something weird happening here. All right, we bring it back to our life. So what this means is, if you feel that you're charging too much, if you think you're charging too much, it either means I don't believe I put enough value to justify this expense. I don't believe I'm selling this to a person who finds enough value in this item. So you can start to do something like, I recently increased my prices by saying, I'm going to guarantee you a job that pays $400,000 a year minimum. Now this package is more valuable at the price that it's at. So you can add that. Alternatively, I used to sell to salespeople. And then I said, they don't have as much money. I'm going to sell to sales leaders. So in one world, I was too expensive for salespeople. I changed my market. In another, I was too expensive for what I was offering. I increased the value of the offering. And then the final thing is thinking about the risk. At the higher the price, the bigger the risk. So the higher the price, the bigger the downside you need to build into that. So for a candy bar, it's $1. You get it for $1. If you don't like it, sorry, man. Now for a car, you pay a bunch of money. There's a lemon law for a couple of days. Now, for a big program where I got to spend $5,000 a month on something, I want to know that something is guaranteed. I can get my dollar out whenever I want, and I'm getting all the results that I should be getting. So You're balancing the market that you're selling to, the value you're providing, and the risk they have to take. So if you ever think you're charging too much, increase the risk, change the market, or increase the value. Those are your options.
So if you're talking to our audience, predominantly our strength and conditioning nutrition coaches that are online mostly, between 150 bucks a month to, the celebrities can charge 800, 900 bucks a month, but I would say on average it's somewhere around $200 to $300 a month.
Mm-hmm.
What would be a homework assignment around pricing, like three things they could do to
Yep.
zero in on where they can offer a price with a value, with enough of an offer that delivers on that price
Yeah.
point?
So I would say fill in the blanks of this to figure out what your offer is. I help you reach goal and never even risk reaching worst case scenario um, without having to pain, even if your unique situation. I help you increase your strength and feel great about yourself and never have to worry about being feeling uncomfortable in
Wasting your
front of
time.
your family
Yep.
without having to spend more than 30 minutes a day, even if you're a stay-at-home dad.
Hmm.
Okay, so like that is like your offer structure. But in terms of, so fill that out. And then number two is, I would say, write down, of the people that you think would find you valuable, what are three different markets you could sell to, and try to get as niche as possible to say something like, dudes, how old are they? What is their income? What is their job? What is their life situation? Okay, dudes that only want help from short periods of time. Got it. So figure out which market in there you can help, and then write down which one you think will have the least aversion to paying more. Then you want to write down, of my current offer, what are three or four things I could do that can add value to it without adding either cost, time wise, or financially. This could be things like introductions, sheets that you create that only you have, just highlighting your history of being a scientist and why it's more valuable, something along those lines, so you can increase the value of it. And then finally, what are two or three ways that you can decrease the risk? Is that adding a guarantee? Is that adding a limited guarantee? Only if you do blank, I can guarantee blank. So
Awesome.
that's what I would say you could do.
Awesome.
You should do.
Love it. Last question on pricing. What's your perspective on offering discounts or closing deals at a lower price? Is that
Yep.
a right time to do that, or is it a momentum?
Yeah. I'm. If the thing that you offer can help somebody, I am all for the discounts. And I know that is very controversial, I feel like, but it's sometimes it just takes a piece of momentum to get someone to move, to do the thing that they should do. It's like, if you could ship everybody a pair of sneakers, a t-shirt, a pair of shorts, and like a old instructions on how to get to the gym, I bet more would show up because you sort of kickstarted the momentum. So I'm for it. However, it should always be done as a give get, and it should always be done formally. So not, okay, well, listen, maybe if you could like sign up early, we could maybe drop off with some pricing, or nope. It should be like, yeah, you want a discount? That's great, man. So in exchange for you signing up today or tomorrow, I would love to thank you in the form of a 10% discount, or in exchange for you signing up this week and giving me 2 referrals over email, I will give you that same 10%. Which of those is the best for you? Both of these require the person to do something. Both of these seem very specific. It's not, if you could sign up soon or early or this month, or it's like in the next 2 days or whatever. And both of which both do help you. Either you're going to get a referral or you're going to get a thing. It's all very formalized to say, do this and I'll give you this. That makes people feel like it's actually legit versus you being some like slimy guy just being like, come on, sign today, I'll give you 10% off,
It's good
And
to
I'm
know.
also very upfront, I will say too, I think it's important to say, like, hey man, listen, obviously I want you to work with me. And obviously if you go away, there's a chance that you don't work with me. So to try to reduce the chance that you don't work with me, I'll happily give you 10% off to encourage you to start working today. It's
It's
totally
really
okay to say
interesting.
that.
As I'm totally new to sales. I came up in operations, military, manufacturing. So sales was this black art to me, but the more that I learned about it, the more there's so many similarities with coaching, holding people accountable, but, kind of nudging them in the direction to help them make a decision faster. And it's not sleazy. It really does become a service, because you're
Truly.
trying to help this person move forward one way or the other, and it lets you kind of let go of feeling like this always be closing,
Yeah, no, it
Wolf of Wall
shouldn't be.
Street
It
kind of
always,
vibe.
it should like always be helping. It's like,
Yeah.
do
No,
you
I
feel
love
weird in
that.
the gym when you say to someone like, "Hey, come over here"? No,
Yeah.
but that's helping them get to the thing to go do the thing. Do you
Right.
feel weird being like, "You should grab the 90s"? That doesn't feel weird to you, but you're
Right.
demanding this person do a thing. So
Right.
it shouldn't
Right.
feel weird to be like, "Yeah, man, sign up in the next 2 days. I'll give you 10% off." Don't. And come on, man, I probably still give it to you, but don't be a jerk about it. Let's get moving, man. Like, you call me because you want to get moving. Let's get moving.
Right. Awesome. All right. Last section. I know we're getting close on time. Actually, we're over. Shoot. You good on time?
Okay. I'm okay. Yeah.
All right. So this one is near and dear to my heart, because I would say this is probably where I've felt the most tangible value from the course, the official sales tips content, which is how
Yeah.
do I close more sales calls, and just kind of understanding the psychology of a discovery call, demo call. I mean, I'm coming mostly from the software side of Turnkey Coach, but I think there's obviously a lot of applicability on for strength coaches who, for the most part, are closing on sales calls as well. But I can remember when I first started doing calls, before any idea of how to do them, I would get off a call and be like, "Oh yeah, crushed that. That was awesome." And then I'd never hear from the lead again. And I
Yeah.
was just like,
Yeah.
"What am I doing wrong?" And so yeah, your framework and just the idea also, which I recently saw in your content talking about it being generational change, where people, it used to be all about sales was all about knocking down objections. Now it's like, how do I even find the objections? Uncover the objections. So, anyways, want to spend a little bit of time on that, and just kind of starting off. What's your framework for sales calls that close, especially for people that feel like they hate pitching or feel like they're teaching too much on a call?
Yeah, that's a good one. That second one. Totally. So um, I'll give you a couple of things here. So the general framework for a call is high level overview of who you are and who you're not. So that positioning we talked about it a minute ago, you do that right in the beginning.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're just like, "What's up? Cool, let's chat." And they're sort of like, "Who is this guy again? Like, I think I followed him, but now I want to." And they're waiting, and they're getting interrogated by you. It's very uncomfortable. So you want to upfront be like, "Hey, here's the deal. I work with people, and whatever. Here's what I do." And here I'm saying what I'm not, because you actually, the typical objection you get, you want to overcome in the overview. So if you charge more for everybody, you might want to say, "Hey, what's going on?" So I help people reach this goal and never have this thing happen without having a blank or whatever. And I'm not the least expensive option here. I do that specifically so I can have less clients and therefore give each client a better experience. Because what I have found is that when you try to work out and get better, the only thing that holds you back is the level of accountability. So you can use nutritionists and coaches and all over here, but if the accountability isn't there, it doesn't matter if they're the best in the planet, you won't do it. And that's why I charge more. Anyways, let's talk about you for a few minutes. So now I'm going to overcome that objection or prep that objection far in advance, or even qualify the person. And they'll be like, "Oh, you're really expensive. Never mind. I don't want to work with you." Okay, cool. See ya. So that's the first bit. Then for discovery, I typically have two sections of discovery. One is emotional. The second is feature based. So on the emotional side, what you want to do is you want to say, "Why are we talking? Like, why were you even open to a call?" I totally get why that's important, but for you, why is that so important in particular? What have you done in the past to try to solve this? And if I'm not the right fit, what are you going to do? That flow of questions gets the person to say, "I have this problem. It's really, really important. I've tried to fix it and couldn't. And if you can't fix it, nobody can." What a place to be before you go into your sales pitch. So then the next two or three questions I ask are going to be number-based questions that would indicate a problem. So, for example, I'm not going to say, "Do you feel fat?" Because you know that I'm going to try to make you not fat. Therefore, it's sort of incentivized to be like, "No, not really." And it puts you in a corner, right? So instead, you want to say questions that would indicate the person has a problem. So you might say, for example, "In the last year, how many times would you say that you were approached, at a bar?" Cool. When you think of that, that goes towards ego. right? And then you might go over here to say, hey, each time you've started going to the gym in the last 20 years, what percent of the time are you not going? Did you stop because of accountability? And what percent of the time did you stop because you didn't know what you were doing? Cool. And then when you think about the next 12 months of your life, what do you think the chances are that if you were to grab a diet that you'd follow through on it? Got it. So now what I basically asked this person is, do you feel desirable, right? Do you have the ability to do this on your own? And do you have the ability to do the dieting on it? That, if I asked directly, would have gotten the exact wrong answers. But if I ask it this way, they've admit these problems, and then I go into whatever I do, talking about, hey man, I totally hear the things you mentioned and the pain you're having and how that impacts your family and whatever else. And you mentioned that you've tried to solve this, but you also mentioned like there's a good chance you don't do it on your own. Well, let me talk about this one thing in my program that actually makes sure that you can do it on your own. So now you take those two things, and that's your demo, if you will, of what it is that you do. So that's the next part. And the final part is the most important. You sort of mentioned a little bit here. So you end the call with, hey man, was this perfect? Is this exactly what you need? Does this check every single box? Is there a 100% chance you're going to move forward? You need to ask some very committing question, because otherwise they'll say, yeah, I like it. I love it. Got to have it. It's cool. Thanks so much. Great pitch. Love your business. And you'd be like, is this the right fit for you, man? And when they say yes or anything else, you want to go, okay, if you ended up not signing up, what are the most likely one or two reasons? I had a guy call yesterday, I asked him that question, and just like most times, they then follow up with, well, I don't really know. I mean, it kind of solves my problem with risk, and it solves my problem with this. I can't see any reason why I wouldn't want to sign. Can you do monthly? That's what they end up closing themselves when you say, is there any reason you would say no? But if you say, is there any reason they're going to say no? They go, no, it's cool, it's cool, it's cool. Yep. But if you go, what are the most likely one or two reasons? They might give you the objections. They might close themselves. If they give you the objection, you now can overcome it. And then you finish with like, cool, if that were to come up, if you were to talk to your wife, your husband, and they were to say you shouldn't move forward, what do you think you would do in that situation? Because now you're actually going to be able to gauge, can this person overcome that obstacle? I got to think about it. I got to bring it to my wife. If your wife said no, what would you do? I'd probably tell her I wanted to prioritize my health. Okay, cool. So whether your wife says yes or no, you're going to move forward. Yes, great. Let me send you a link now. Let's get moving so that you actually can lock in this $95 discount, whatever it is. So that's what I would say for a sales call.
So many things you just hit.
Sorry, I knew I talked really fast. Maybe
no, it was awesome. Just like it hit the nail on the head on so many things that have changed from when I would set up calls. They'd show up and be like, "Hey, how's it going? Blah 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 blah. Let me show you what we do." And then I'd talk for like an hour and a half or whatever it would be, and they're just over the head. And man, love this. This looks awesome. See you later. One of the things you mentioned, I think you implied, but I want to double click on a little bit more, that I changed the most in the demo phase was taking the problems and addressing them one at a time. I think you described it as like the sawtooth method. I don't know.
Yeah, you're like closing them, all these mini closes.
Yeah,
otherwise,
exactly.
you're doing a bunch of discovery, and then you're doing a bunch of demo, and you're going, I hope at the end of the call you were able to find how that problem related to this solution and that one over there, right. And you could remember that, and then make sure you tell your wife about it. All right, sweet. It's never going to happen.
So like as you're going down to discovery, you're taking notes, mental, write it down, whatever, and then demo one problem, and is that exactly what you need? Cool. Next one. Cool. Next one. All right. Now that if we do bang, 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 is that perfect for what you're looking for? Yeah, that totally
and you'll love.
changed.
I've had plenty of calls where I get towards the end and I'm like, this sounds like it's not a good fit, man.
Yeah, totally.
I've tried closing you these mini closes and they weren't really that important. So it wasn't a good fit. Let's jump. So that
the other huge one that you've also posted, I think it was actually the one about how to find out if your boyfriend's lying, or it was something, part two, something like that. But it's like, especially because on the software side of the business, we're often moving people off of a solution. I used to get kind of like almost not defensive, but I would struggle with how to open that conversation. But now I'll just jump right in with, what do you love about what you have right now? And the funniest thing about that is that 9 times out of 10, the first thing they say, this is what I hate.
It's weird. Or what I find out 9 times out of 10, they'll say two things they like, and then they'll start going they're like, well, I like how they're blue and they're a great company to work with. The challenge is,
yep. And
you're like, but if you say, what do you hate about them? Or is there any reason you'd move off from them? What do they say? Nothing. They say nothing.
Exactly. No.
But when you say, what do you love it? Then they go, oh, I don't know.
Sort of like adversarial thing.
Mm-hmm.
What is one, or actually, let's go with three. What are three mistakes that you either made early in your career or that you see with new sales reps or people that are getting into sales on their calls?
Number one, you lead with charisma and energy. You do need the energy, but actually this high energy thing really turns people off because it comes across like the needy guy trying to pick up someone at the bar. Like, hey, what's going on? I'm really excited. Keep your status normal so they realize you've been there before. That's the first one. Number two is absolutely not searching for objections, or not diving into uncomfortable conversations. Where early on in my career, someone might say something like, well, we do kind of like this solution, and I will panic and swallow my panic and do nothing with it. Whereas I got older, I then realized you should say, sounds like maybe you wouldn't want to switch then if you're pretty happy with them. And actually just call it out right there. And just bring up all of that, because it usually will result in what you just saw, which is when you bring it up, you find a lot of times the opposite will be true. It will share the opposite. And if you bring it up, it also can shorten your sales cycle because you're like, this was never going to close in the first place. So those two are key. And then I would say the third thing outside of what I've told you guys about today is weaving in case studies is 100 times more valuable than sharing case studies. So on calls, in the beginning, I would be like, I'll email case studies or whatever, or I'll try to be very formal about it. And what I realized is it's far more valuable to have someone say something and you go, oh my God, that's just like this guy Joe I work with. He was like 300. He was way worse than your situation. But anyways, he was like, I'm not doing that any low carb bullshit. Totally got it. I ended up making these two changes. I think he's now like 160 or something like that. It doesn't matter. Anyways, what was it you said again? That weaving feels much more authentic and gets someone to really pay attention. So weave your objections, bring up the tough conversations, and lead with status. Don't lead with excitement.
Love it. So let's say a coach has a warm lead. They book the call, but then get ghosted or they don't convert. What's a recommended follow-up that doesn't sound desperate?
Yeah, cool. I have the best one for this ever. I've tried them all, and I got this one like a year ago, and I just have not changed it at all since. Okay. Which is, I go, hey man, sounds like we were moving too quickly. I want to let you know, absolutely no hard feelings. It's totally okay, man. Then I go, I'm still a fan of what you're doing, or I'm still here for whatever you're doing. Take care. The keys are I don't leave any inch for, but if you're still interested, I'm completely cutting it off. And the other key is the no hard feelings. So you're sort of soft. You're letting them know this is something that you might think should make me feel hurt because it was kind of inappropriate. But I want to let you know I'm cool with you. So now this puts me in a level of I don't want to say guilt, but I've done something nice, which makes you feel like you should reciprocate. So most of the time you get a response, and a lot of the time the response is oh, sorry, I missed it. And sometimes it's yeah, well, I wasn't interested. Right. So no hard. Hey man, move too fast. No hard feelings. Still wishing you the best. Take care. And watch the responses come back in.
I was at SaaStr back in May and listening to Jason Limkin was talking about this era of sales right now and kind of SaaS industry having this energy to it that it hasn't had in 20 years, particularly around sales, just the volume and the speed of things. And basically saying, if somebody goes to you or you're not getting a response, move on, move faster, Absolutely. Do more, call more people, send more outreach, create more content. It's just more and move faster right now. Don't get hung up on somebody, ghosting you or.
I've worked at all these different companies and everyone does a closed loss campaign, go back to people who closed lost. And I've never seen a closed loss campaign in so many industries ever make a sizable difference where I have seen people not doing that and spending their time prospecting for more stuff make a sizable difference. So yes, I'm very much like, are you in? Are you out? You're out. See ya.
Awesome.
Are you going to lose some because of that? Yes.
Right.
There's still going to be a story of someone who found someone 8 months later and followed up for 12 months. Of course. But how many other people would have gotten 15 deals in the middle in the meantime? So don't try to suck onto to one deal.
Awesome. Last thing, I got a live question here. For the 21 piece of content homework assignment, what time frame should those be published?
3 per day. Nope. 3 per day. Do 6 a.m., noon, and like 9-10 p.m.
Okay.
But 3 per day, and do that over 7 days. So if you can't get if you want to get that 7-day content done, so that you can move forward and start making some content during those 7 days and start to get ahead of yourself.
Awesome. Last bonus wrap-up question. What's one question you ask yourself every week to keep improving your own business? Hot seat question.
That is a real hot. What is the one question I ask myself? Do I ask myself one question? I actually think that the answer is in here. The way that I prioritize myself is I have important must be done this week, important can be done next week, and then this is what am I doing today? And so I think the most important question that I ask myself is this really what you should be working on?
Love it.
I think that's what it tells you, and you know, no, this is not helping you. Like today, I started doing things at the bottom of my list because I was just like, I'm tired. I don't want to do anything important, but I did.
You're a proponent of the one big thing a day. I think I've seen that.
Big fan. But what I found is if you just write down one thing, you start panicking because you're like, but what about all the other things? So for me, I'm like, I want to see everything. So don't panic. It's all here. But then I only write one thing, and you can see I live by it. This is all these different days. But then inevitably, as you do one thing, you start doing 2 and 3 and 4. But yeah, you have to.
Awesome. Love it, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for taking time out today and giving us a lot of actionable advice. I think this was one of our best episodes yet. And for those that are listening that are interested in learning more about Turnkey Coach, schedule your free discovery call, turnkey.coach/BOC call. And we'll get on and I'll do my best at trying to implement some of these sales tips. So thanks again, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right, take it easy. Be perfect. See ya.
Bye now.